Welcome to another episode of the American Beer Review Podcast.
Good times with good friends requires good beer. Lucky for us, we know how to pick all three.
We're a group of friends who grew up in the Pacific Northwest, giving us a jump start on our craft beer journey.
Join us today while Brian... I pride myself on not getting to know other people, so do not put that on me.
Alec. So the bananas up until like the 60s were an entirely different species of banana.
And Chad. It hit me like a wrecking ball.
Review some beer, talk about beer topics, and whatever else comes up. We invite you to pour yourself a drink and hang out with us. You know, people go IPAs and different things, but then there's some... Oh, this is much darker.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, wow.
What is that?
The liquid lunch.
Ooh, okay.
We call it liquid lunch because obviously the monks in Germany would they drink that for fasting.
Yeah.
So instead of eating, they just drink Doppelbocks. Our owner Greg actually did a 4-day fast on just Doppelbock.
Oh, seriously?
yeah.
That does not... I don't know if that's...
He didn't drink a ton, though.
No,
he like maybe drink like a couple pints a day.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
Still, I mean, I guess it's giving you
Yeah.
calories.
Exactly.
It's getting you like some
Yeah. And that
interesting.
was our first dip back into an artist series we started
Yeah.
years ago. And so we worked with Punch Project and they created a liquid lunch monk art for the can. And,
Okay.
Yeah, we'll send you with a 4-pack of that as well.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
That one's been really popular.
Yeah.
Brian, you're my eyes.
Oh yeah.
You can
So
jump around if you want.
Yeah.
Come closer.
So-
That's a BrauKon. It's
Oh,
our-
yes.
our dark Mexican
I really.
lager.
So that's the thing is I will say like
Perfect.
I've had almost every single one of your guys' beers and
Nice.
like anyone that comes out. I think honestly. Somehow I think I haven't had the hef, which is kind of surprising
Well, that's
to me.
funny.
Yeah.
It's been around the longest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's
their
just I probably have had it. I looked at
You
the
just
like
didn't check it in on.
that's probably what
Yeah.
it is. But other than like your new one, but that's always what we would come. They used to have a space over in Potholes, and so
Oh,
we'd
yeah.
always stop here on the way over.
Oh,
That
okay.
or the way back was always my thing because I knew that like you guys are gonna have some beers here that we can't get
For sure.
over there. So.
Yeah, and we're gonna try our next one. That's I just pulled it straight off the tank. It's a Imperial IPA, and it's fucking awesome.
Is it? Which? So we.
I'll rip the Timothy Hazy.
Yes, for sure.
So the apple pie Irish
pie.
Jack. So
Yes.
you guys roll through the iterations and the seasonal versions. When
Yeah.
we'll grab every single one.
That one people request a lot.
But what?
It wasn't
Do you guys do
as-
that in-house? We thought it was some crazy mixologist.
Because we only found it on tap.
Yeah.
Jake will know the story because I've only heard it like
Thank you
second
much.
hand.
Absolutely. So apple pie kind of came about. It was like we were just kind of talking and about like, well, what do we want to kind of do with the like one of the death variants, right? So
Yeah.
we have the death variants, you know, the cookie death, tiramisu, things like that, aloha, peanut butter.
Yeah.
And we're like, well, what if we did like an apple pie and made it like a 11%?
Mhm.
Yeah, because it was way boozier than the other one.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. And so we were like, all right, well, let's try it out. So we just did a small little, we do about a half batch, so 12.4 barrels. And it was just draft only. And we rocked it out. And we were like, this was actually really good.
Yeah.
People really liked it. But we're like, ugh, should we put it in the cans? Should we not? It's
Yeah.
kind of expensive to make and
Yeah.
things like that. And so we were like, it's in the back pocket. And then
Yeah.
there's talks about like bringing it back.
Bring it back.
Because this one, even it's 7, like for this dark, it's not like, oh, that's not that bad. I mean, what, Irish Death is 7.8?
Yeah.
But this one, it does give you a little like pause. There's a little bit like where you feel the thickness of it, you feel the heaviness. You're like, okay, I'm just gonna.
I should drink this one a little slower.
Yeah.
That's why I started with the.
I know.
a little bit lighter fare.
Yeah.
Listen, the name got me. Liquid Lunch.
Yeah, the artwork turned out really good. I have some of the cans in here.
Oh,
And we're
awesome.
working on our second artist series. It will be a hazy IPA that we're gonna make with
Oh, that's cool.
Crucible. So this is a local artist group. So each artist is gonna take a can. They have
Okay.
a little art gallery in Thorpe, and so they collab together and then with us to come up with the concept and the end product. And we work with them to figure out like, oh, let's do release parties together and which is really fun. So we did.
Yeah, the cool thing we've talked about between us is the art's awesome, but it all feels Iron Horse.
Yeah.
Right? So even new artists coming in, new can styles,
Yeah.
whatever, but it still feels like a cohesive brand that jumps out.
Yeah, even the Crow Says Eyes, which was made by the Acorn Group, that feels like it really fits our sort of quirky, dark,
Yeah, and that's our backyard.
I would say that's because Acorn
You guys
out of
there?
Edgewood,
Yep.
right?
So-
Yeah, we're all in the Puyallup
Puyallup
general
ish
area.
area.
So I've been to that one a few times. But yeah, it's interesting how did that connection come up?
Happen, yeah.
From our sales rep, Jeremy. He's over there, and that's kind of his like territory. Jeremy Passmore is his name, and he was at a festival, and they kind of came up and talked to him, and they're like, "We love Irish Death. It's the reason we started our whole operation. Like, we're like, hey, we want to make beer. This is delicious." And so they've been asking for a while, and we finally made it happen. So
Cool.
yeah. And then we did the Imperial Black Walnut Stout, and we just dry hopped it with 15 pounds of crushed roasted black walnuts.
Okay.
Yeah, we did it. We had to do it in 2 half batches because if we did a full 30 barrel batch, it probably wouldn't have fit in our mash kettle. Because to get to 10.5 using those dark malts and things like that. With not a great fermentation capability, basically, then it was a lot of grain. So, and then we aged it on oak spirals, American oak spirals, right on the ferment.
Okay.
Yeah. You can definitely taste the black walnut in there. I like it. Got a good balance to it. Should we start the tour?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's check out the facility.
It all happened.
These are the
Brian,
ones.
Is this the equipment you want?
Yeah,
Do you guys have dreams to have a brewery?
we
No.
used to.
We did home brewing for a while and decided we were better at drinking than making.
We got to the point where we realized how much it would take to do the next step.
Yeah.
And
And it was just much easier to go buy tasty beer.
Yeah.
I've come to the realization that if I did anything in the industry, it would be just like a tap room.
Yeah.
Like doing it that way to make a community space and have that. But the extra processes and steps of this is
Distribution is a whole nother monster.
Yeah.
well, and that's something that I think
Well,
we'll
I
bring
have
up and
experience
talk
on
about.
that
well,
side
yeah,
of it,
that's
but-
what he does for work.
So
But
what do
like,
you guys all do for
but
your
we
day
did.
jobs?
It's one of those things I do have questions about later on for how it works
so
for
I'm
you guys.
a sales manager, regional sales manager for
Yeah, see, this looks more familiar.
This is our little 15-gallon pilot system here that our kind of play around.
Yeah.
there you go.
We won a bet, and Greg and Jake had to make pumpkin beer on this. Iron
We've
Horse
never
very
made a
first.
pumpkin beer before.
It's
ever.
the only successful beer that I have made consistently.
he made a pumpkin spice lager
Okay.
that was actually pretty decent.
All right.
Pretty
I
good.
feel like ours turned out good too. I liked it a lot.
The recent one we're doing right now, one of the our QC gal, Brittany, she had this idea. She wanted to kind of go like super old school, like use some weird old ingredients, and so we used spruce tips, ginger, and we're fermenting it on champagne yeast right now to dry it out, and it's only gonna be about like maybe 3.5%. She's kind of like, her idea of it was, can I make a beer that doesn't necessarily taste like a beer? And I was like, oh, sure, we can try it. So
Yeah.
I've seen that kind of champagne style start to really crop up.
yeah.
I have feelings. I mean, the Brut IPAs, I think, didn't take off for a reason.
Yeah.
How much of that is part of your process, where it's just people who work, not necessarily in the brewing space, going, hey man, I have an idea, or I kind of know.
It's a big part of our process. Yeah. I mean, we have the basically a pilot committee, and so we all come up with ideas, talk about what we want to kind of do for the Death series, things like that. Like, that's all just a group of people coming together and going, hey, I have this cool idea, I want to try this.
Yeah. And there's non-brewer people on the committee. I'm on the committee. I just do events and marketing.
Yeah.
And there's sales people on that committee. So it's a group of like different corners of the organization all talking about what
I'd like it to taste like this, but I have no idea how to get there, and that's where we rely on these guys to kind of figure it out.
Yeah,
I keep pushing for a sour beer. I don't know if it'll ever happen.
Oh, buddy.
Yeah. Done a couple, man. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
if you, the hard part for me is like we can do like the kettle sours and things like that, but they just don't quite have the depth of flavor that we kind of like you want to see from a sour. And I really don't want to bring Brett anywhere in this facility.
it's
It's a facility killer. You know, it's like light it on fire if it gets out. So it's scary, and he can do it. We've done it once before, and we were super careful. We made sure like it was always contained in a different area. Every time we touched it, everything got denatured, flamed, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, but it's still just doing a bigger production of it is still scary, because I mean that was just in like a couple barrels. That was like the 1621. I don't know if you guys ever tried that one.
You, I think, did. And
That-
talked about it, maybe.
I think so. I think somebody had it at a party, like literally, like, and they were like, "Hey, I'm thinking about opening this," and I was like, "Oh, really? Let me go ahead and try it out. You are my new friend." Look, I think I remember that a few years ago, like Thanksgiving or like Christmas season, that it would have come out. Like,
Yeah, I mean that was like probably like 2016 or something like that.
that sounds about right.
Okay.
So, okay, I think that might have been the one I had, but there was one that was like a release like that in a bottle that you guys had that I was like, I didn't buy this, but I will definitely drink it.
Yeah, and that was it's funny because you know you're just trying to find ways to save beer and things like that. You know, Brulette. You guys remember Brulette at all?
Yes.
Yeah. We had a lot of kegs of that left over, and so basically what we did was we took that, put it into some port barrels, and then introduced Brett to it, put sour cherries in there, things like that, and then just kind of let it go, and all of a sudden it came out, and we're like, this is actually
Drinkable?
Yeah, this is actually really good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, go us. Let's bottle it and wax dip it and call it 1621.
There you go.
So,
Yeah, because we've seen that in breweries we touched on. They usually it's all sours when they go that way, just because the cross contamination is so difficult to maintain.
yes.
Or they're in a shed out in the woods and everything.
There is that too.
Beer never touches steel.
Yeah, absolutely. And hey, good on those guys for being able to, you know, make that beer. But that is difficult because there's a lot of times where you're going to open that. We've done it multiple times where you open the barrel, you taste it, and you're like, that's bad.
We just wasted our time.
Okay, let's go ahead and just dump out and restart.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, but here, we'll head this way.
We'll let you.
And then I, with my father and brother, own a fishing tackle import and distribution company.
Oh, cool.
So I do.
So you also work in sales and business,
I'm
I know that's the nice smell. I know.
Yeah.
the numbers.
Right.
numbers. It's an important
I
job.
was trained in marketing. It's still, I gotta flex that muscle.
Who makes all the graphics?
Me.
But we were everybody at Iron was like, oh, we love these. These are so fun.
Yeah.
Just wait till you see the ones he's got cooked up for you guys.
I'll show you guys the album cover.
That's awesome.
Cookie Death was hilarious.
Yeah.
So
I need you
good.
guys to get the stamp of approval. These two are freaked out.
We are pretty wide open when it comes. Like,
Yeah.
we're fine with pushing the boundaries of
I saw
what's
your
accepted.
guys' glamour shots on your album covers.
Yeah.
Down deep in the blog, and I was kind of inspired. So
Perfect.
Oh, like
Yeah.
the circus ones and stuff.
80s album covers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was a great one. Yep. That was in the Beastie Boys one.
Yeah,
Nice.
that one turned out really good.
Yeah, this is where it all kind of starts. This is most of our malt now. We go through Prairie Malt, and they are based out of Wisconsin, and so part of the thing that we've kind of had to deal with as overseas supply, shipping, things like that, price increases. We order full truckloads of Prairie Malt now. So, and it took a while because before we were using a lot of like Baird's malt for Irish Death, Baird's and like Franco Belge, so overseas malts, and COVID happened and those
shut down.
Just incredibly expensive too, and hard to get. And so we had to do a lot of flavor trials and testing and things like that to make Irish Death compatible to where it was using those malts with a different malt. So, so it took us a while, but we got it pretty well, I think, dialed in, for our QC and our in-house testing. And so now that's what we do. They're a great company. Like I said, most of their malt comes from like North Dakota area, things like that. So, and they work well with us, and we order a full truckload about every month to 2 months. And yeah.
So yeah, 53 feet, just
20 pallets.
Yeah.
40 bags on each pallet. So.
Do you ever get specialty stuff from other places, or can you get this is just more the base of everything? Yeah,
pretty much most of the stuff for Prairie Malt is just going to be for Irish Death. That's kind of like what Irish Death's, I think at this point like 78% of our production.
My question is what percentage that makes up, but
78 to 80%. It kind of fluctuates. Obviously right now, February leading into March, St. Paddy's Day, it's our biggest time of the year, so we're cranking through a lot of Irish Death. So about 12 brews per week right now, just getting everybody stocked up and make sure we have enough draft cans, 16-ounce cans, all the whole thing. So.
Is that the same? Distributions, obviously we're getting a ton of that. Do you see a different mix when it comes to local mix? People coming in here, is it still 80% Irish Death, or people coming in here going all over the board?
We rarely pour Irish Death in the tap room.
Okay, that's because that's kind of what I was thinking.
No, they people come in here and they're like, "What do you got? It's not Irish Death.
What's new?"
I know I've tried Irish Death. I like Irish Death. I want to try something else. So for the most part, it's usually I think the biggest one that we sell in the tap room is Mel's Magic, which is our IPA. It's the one. It's kind of an employee favorite too. So all the employees kind of drink that one, but and all the mud clubbers and things like that.
That's one of the first times it's not like a Pilsner or something, I feel like. Usually the employees are like all on Pilsners or like...
Well, the Mel's just tastes different too than a lot of other IPAs. It's about the hops or the yeast.
We use, we switched it up, and some of the regulars got really mad at first. And then they were like, actually, okay, it's pretty
better,
good. And we switched the yeast that we were using. Originally it was, we were using, the 838 juice yeast, which is a great yeast. I really like it. It's from Imperial, but we switched over to the Vermont Tropics from Berkeley, and it gave it just like this like super grapefruity nose that was like awesome. And the regulars at first were like, "What the hell did?" Because I mean, it was different. Like I remember I did it, and we caked it off and put it on the tap, and I was like, tasted it, and I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I didn't think it was going to be that big of a difference, but it was very different, and I was like, "This might go poorly," and then everybody, still likes it.
One round, and they gave up on it.
Yeah, exactly. And they're like, oh, "Okay, actually, it is pretty good, so it's fine."
Good beer has a way of doing that.
So when you're doing your process, milling it in there, but are you dumping the entire giant amounts and then?
So all this right here is all for Irish Death. So this is all our specialty malt here, and all this goes into here, and then. Sorry.
That's all right.
So basically what happens is this gets milled first. So we got a chain disc auger. It comes through. We got a 2-roller mill here, and it all goes into our grist case over there. And then once all the specialty malt's milled, we have a silo out back that'll hold about 120,000 pounds of grain. And all that is still on that chain disc, so it opens it up and starts milling all our 2-row that we need.
Just the generic stuff goes flying through.
Yep.
Backbone of any brewery.
2-row. It is. It's the backbone. So we get 48,000 pounds at a time, and those come in usually about every 2 to 2.5 weeks. So we just get a truck that shows up.
Which is the one that sort of tastes or smells like Cocoa Crisps?
Cocoa Crisps?
Remember, there's that one that we put into QID, and we're like, ooh, it smells sort of chocolatey.
I don't know.
I don't know. It was like a chocolate chip. 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 It was like a cho
Oh, like the Crystal 120.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of what we had to do to kind of get some of those
change from
yes, as we kind of had to add some of that those caramely notes back to Irish Death, and especially after switching, because originally Irish Death was brewed on a direct fire system, and so it was just straight heat fire right to the bottom, and that would create almost like a caramelization sugar, and then when we switched to our BrauKon system, that's steam. And that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, you're not caramelizing anything.
Getting the built-in caramelization.
Yeah.
Exactly.
See, and that's the parts where that's when it's like, yeah, we're not good enough at this to figure out these differences.
No, that was when I was like, I'm gonna go clean this. You guys keep stirring that. Then we're gonna put the DME in, and you keep stirring.
But I'm gonna go wakeboarding.
Yeah.
So
We brewed on a lake, and that was an often distraction. It's like,
How far into the homebrewing did you were like, we're not doing this professionally?
You guys were like year 2, I was like year 6.
we did it for a while. We were at least brewing something every
other week.
weekend.
Wow.
We were
had
doing
stuff going.
something. So like we for a while had like a few taps at his brother's house or like stuff ready to go.
No, we had tap handles and a brand and
Yeah.
That last
wow.
4th of July, that was our big.
Yeah.
We had
Yeah.
4 on tap, we had the Gunner Snout Stout.
Yeah.
We had the Rebel
Yeah.
Failure. What do we have? And then...
Your neighbors must love you.
Dude, there was
They didn't get any of it. We drink it all. I forget the other 2, but yeah.
We drank it or dumped
Yeah.
it.
yeah.
We had the beer labels up, people were voting on them. I mean,
Yeah.
it was
Wow.
very tongue-cheek, but this was, what, 10 years ago?
3
Almost.
children
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
3 children ago.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that was right in like in the height too. That was like
Yes.
everybody was going.
It was the do or don't time.
Because you had to get different equipment and stuff, and that's the thing is that we then started to even realize like in week to week that we weren't hitting the same stuff. Like the
Consistency.
the math wasn't lining up every time, even though we're buying the same stuff and doing it at the same time, and like,
Yeah.
and so that's when we were like, okay, this is not going to work for us.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's-
Rather drink than make.
If anything, I'm going back to like a all-in-one gallon at a time,
There you
like
go.
just to do it.
Yeah.
I'm new to the brewery world, and I was talking to a really tiny brewery, and they told me basically they have such a hard time with consistency that they changed the name of the beer for every batch. They're just like, well, this is this, and it's like a variation of that.
Yeah.
There are some of those that we review when
Yeah.
they have 600 different
Yeah.
beers out, where you wonder,
Right?
is it just because you go, it's not going to taste the same as last time,
Yeah.
so we'll just name it something different and send it out the door.
I mean, there probably is like that's two different things. To try and make the same exact beer every time is a completely different than
Yeah.
just
Well,
we're just
even-
going to make beer and it's going to taste good, but it's
Yeah.
not going to be.
It's
I'm going to bring this point up later when we're sat down.
Yeah.
That was going to tie into something.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll give you the cliff notes.
Go for it
There
now.
are beers that are, in my mind, I know what they're going to taste like every single time.
Yeah.
Red Hook ESP, I know what a Red Hook ESP is going to taste like when it's proper. I know what an Irish Death is going to taste like. I can be anywhere in the world. It's like McDonald's.
Yeah.
This is Irish Death. And you can, and the good thing and the bad thing is you can never go away from that taste, but it's going to sell 80%. It's just
Yep.
you can keep it's like the Budweiser. They have to fly the 4 brewmasters in and
Oh, have most.
we're going to taste this. Is this become Busch Light? No,
But-
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. Well, part of it is ingredients, because when I'm talking to, and we've run into it with cider, like getting the consistent ingredients, and when you're a really small operation is really tricky.
Yeah.
Like that, they would have ingredients change, and then that changes the flavor, and yeah. And then working on a small system, like you're dealing with the things like what Jake's talking about, your completely different heat source, and yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't have even thought of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It changes
Yeah.
it. And then there's so many different things. And then if you don't have controlled fermentation, you don't have you're not able to count your yeast and do cell counts, viability, things like that. All of a sudden, all those things can drastically not drastically, but they'll change it. And then you're like, oops, that's not right.
We realized we didn't do well enough in science and math to do beer, and we were like, wait a second, this doesn't make sense.
I was never going to bust out the pH again with you guys.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we test pH on everything.
Let's make sure we got enough minerals in our water.
Yep, we do our water testing too. So once everything's ready to go, this is where all like the flakes go, and this goes in because it doesn't need to run through the mill. This they had to make special for us because this is a German system, and they're like, "What do you mean you're going to use flake barley? Like, you're not running it through the mill? What are you talking about?" And they're like, "We don't do that." So this was a special. We had to literally go when we went over to Germany because that was cool. We actually got to go over and talk with them, help design the brew house, and also they showed us how to run it basically.
Nice.
And that was a very fun trip, but yeah, this was one of the things we're like, we need this. Like Irish Death takes 150 pounds of flake barley, and it doesn't need to run through the mill, or else it's gonna screw it up.
Yeah.
And we're like, okay, we can probably make that work. What we're gonna do is we're gonna tie in another. We'll put it in on the chain disc that normally wouldn't be there. So this is the whole thing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We're gonna not tell the beer keepers of the beer.
The beer law people, yeah.
Hey, I mean, it's technically still malt, so it fits in the German purity law. But yeah, apparently they don't use that a whole lot. Germans are they've had their recipes for hundreds of years, and they're like, why would you change it when it's really good? And I'm like, I agree, I get it, but over here we got to have some variety.
Americans.
We got a lot of palates over here.
Yes, a lot of
It's nice
palates.
that Germany's very homogenized culturally, so flavors are flavors. Why do you need pepper on? Why would you need to put salt and pepper on this? This tastes like cardboard.
Exactly.
That was the experience of my Oktoberfest.
He was there last September.
We ate so much pork, we're sitting
so
there
The
and
little pork sandwiches, it's like, we're just going to give you a half-inch slice off this thing of pork and put it in a bun and call it a day.
This is my favorite spot in the whole brewery.
this is our hop
where
cooler.
Ooh.
We like to go hang out when we need to get away from
This is
people.
probably your, oh God, that
It
smell.
smells so good.
Yeah.
Ooh, the hop room.
Oh, yeah.
Dude. Between the smell and probably like a hot summer day, you're like,
Yes,
I'm sneaking
yeah.
back in here for a minute.
I've definitely
Absolutely.
brought my laptop in here before.
There you go. This was my favorite part of brewing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is when you open the bag and you pass it around. Everybody takes a huff before
Yeah.
You feel like a drug dealer, like, hey, what do I got
I
here?
got a bag of hops.
So these are what are in the new Imperial IPA, and these are called Nectaron.
Oh, yeah.
And these
Nectaron?
Yep.
Wallpaper?
these smell absolutely delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Oh man, that is so. Go for it.
This is in Release the Beast.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Oh,
Oh, yeah. we
so
love
good.
it.
Yeah.
So this
And those
one
little
was
tin
reactor
cans
one.
right there,
Yeah.
these are salvo. And so basically what that is just like a hop extract almost. And so
Okay.
what you're getting is aromas without the alpha acids. So you're trying to basically introduce hop aroma without bitterness.
Okay.
And so like you open those up and it's like literally like a jelly oil almost. And then you just dump that into the whirlpool.
So two things. One, we talked recently. There was a Rubens has a 0 IBU beer.
hard to do.
Yes, and so we talked about that whole process, and basically it's like about when you add it, and
Yeah.
so it's like you're only counting like during the boil, technically, because that's when it's pulling the alpha acids. So it's anything that's added after it then doesn't count. They at least put it in quotes, which was nice.
Yes.
But second, I haven't listened to the whole podcast yet, but Ricky, who used to work here,
Ricky Wells, I love her.
she is on Grit and Grain, and
Okay.
for like the second time, and she was just talking about, because she's at Haas now,
Yeah.
and they like have like a dropper of like hops stuff that they're doing, like flavoring, and she's like, oh, we're putting it in like everything. She's like, I'll put it in my like energy drink, I'll put it in like my coffee, like all that stuff. So I'm just like, that might be a bit too much with the hops, but like, okay, kind of that's what this makes me think of, is like kind of having that sort of like
Yeah.
bit of it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, hops inherently, the hard part is bitterness is not. It's still hard to measure, like
Yes.
and things like that. And if you put a hop in your mouth, you're like, that's fucking bitter. And so, saying 0 IBUs, I get it, I understand it. Still probably gonna taste a little bitter, but it's all right. It's all right. I get it. Because the alpha acids haven't isomerized into the liquid technically.
Technically, it's 0 IBU, but
technically.
Best kind of correct.
Yeah.
I still want to try it though. I'm so
Yeah.
curious.
Oh yeah, the 0 IBU one.
Yeah. It was fantastic,
It
but
was good.
it didn't taste like 0 IBU.
I almost put one in the cooler to break.
It's minimal, very minimal bitterness, but like to me, it's almost like having like more of the hazy style without all of the haze and all of that stuff, so that you get more of like the floral and the fruity without as much bitter. But they're not the first, we found out, but
0 IBUs. That's impossible.
I made some dumb statements that I then got called out on. So
You're a big enough man to walk it back.
Yeah.
Presented with facts.
see, I love all of this too, because this is like,
All the historical.
oh, these are
stuff.
all ones
yeah.
like I've had. I mean, it's like that one I don't think I ever had.
This was one of my favorites.
We
So the
love this.
farmland,
We
it was
did
so good.
So we did this 6 years ago, where we started to do our podcast and do stuff, and we had a whole beer website that we did for stuff. Hello, and this was one of our favorites to sit and talk about.
Farmland, yeah.
Yeah.
This is Greg. This is the owner of the company.
Hello, I'm Brian.
Hey, how we doing, Alec?
Hey, Alex.
Thank you much for opening your doors up for
Oh,
us.
heck yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys are doing good work out there. Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
You make good beer, so
Long time fans. We were just talking. I mean, back in the incubator days.
yeah, we're big fans. I mean, I've listened
just
to the
drink beer.
podcasts. I've read you guys' blogs. I've done so. Like, yeah,
I forgot. Yeah, we did podcasts.
You did podcasts for a while, yeah. There was one that you guys, I think we're drinking and doing something, and it was like, if you have listened this long, you need to let us know. And I was just like, okay. And I emailed in, and somebody was like, oh God, they did listen this long.
That's awesome.
Who knows what we were talking about by then?
Right?
It helps when it's just late
Usually
at night.
how ours go as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's why we have a timer usually.
Me just waving my hands. Okay, time to go, guys. I gotta edit all this. That's what it is. Stream
Where are we
consciousness.
off to next?
We're gonna go to the brew house next.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yours is still, this is much
Way-
more massive than
way
what they
more, yeah.
even have going. So
Yeah, it was. It's been a pretty wild adventure to get to this spot.
And how long have you been in this location?
2012, right?
Okay.
That's when we bought it.
Yeah.
You bought it.
Yeah, and then we started setting it up and getting things moved in.
And none of this was here. It was just that singular pad right there, and
Okay.
then the packaging pad, and that was it. And the old brew house, the Millennium Falcon, sat right over there in that corner.
Wow. And then
Yeah.
it's just built out since then?
Yep.
Just as capacity needs.
Yes. Yeah. And we put all these tanks in ourselves. That was pretty wild.
Didn't think about how to change the lights when.
Seriously though, it's a problem. We can't change those lights. We can't get anything in here. Yeah.
Yeah,
Flashlight, buddy.
Yeah, that's one you don't really think about, huh?
we didn't think about it. And we had a contractor come in and say they were trying to sell us on lighting retrofit. Sure, the job is yours if you can get to those lights. And he looked for a little while. Let me think about it. And then he came back and said, "Yeah, we could do it." And that was 8 months ago. As you can see,
The lights are still there.
yeah, I think we're only going to pay for half the job because they're ready to give up. Yeah, like, we don't know what to do.
Oh
they
my
gave up.
gosh. That's, wow.
So there's a pro tip for you.
I
Yeah.
could get it. OSHA would not like it
I
at
know.
all.
Yeah, exactly.
We've puzzled on it. I don't know how. If you have an idea, actually, yeah, what are you thinking?
I could get some ladders up there.
Outside, cut the hole from the roof and doing the mission.
I could get it from down
You
here.
could just like
That's
hang
what-
from a beam.
That was my most recent thought.
Yeah.
Was it'd be nice to have a skylight anyway.
There you go.
Well, Skylight might negate the need for those.
That's true. Shoot. Yeah. Got a hole? Who's going through it? No more.
Yeah, you're good.
Not required.
We got the light there now.
Piece of plexi over it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We start so they can throw a blue tarp over it, and we'll be kid attached certified.
Absolutely. This is the BrauKon. We bought this in 2016, and it's a fully automated system other than this part, which is the whirlpool. That's the only thing that's not automated on the system.
Okay.
So basically, this thing will mash in at 1:30 in the morning all by itself, go through a whole process. We have a brewer come in at 5 a.m. and he mashes in the next brew, and then we just kind of keep rocking and rolling. So we can do up to about 6 brews, close to 6 brews in 24 hours.
Wow.
You did that in your garage, Brian?
The only reason we need a brewer here after the startup is for grain out, right?
Yeah, grain out, loading hops, and then the transfer. So basically, those are 3 things the brewers physically have to do: is load grain, specialty malts, load hops, and transfer through the heat-X.
But otherwise, it could be just running. Like
By
if you had a
itself.
way to auto those, it would just run the whole time.
Yep.
So when you did switch to kind of this, don't let a human touch it, how is your consistency? Have you seen was there a market jump?
So much better.
Although missed opportunities. One time Sam, the brewer, over-sparged a batch of Irish Death, and that's how we ended up with Mocha Death.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
You had some coffee, right? And you're like, I don't know, let's some coffee.
That was one of my questions, talking about the variances. This didn't turn out, but could we spin this into something if we throw something else at it?
in it.
Can we
exactly.
replicate this mistake?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the hardest part, is replicating the mistake then at that point, because you're like, what did we actually do here? Yeah. But Mocha Death was a great success story.
Well, that was the first Irish Death variant, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and to me, it's the one that's honestly it's the least different from Irish Death.
Mm-hmm.
The rest have more. That is just highlighting, I feel like, one little aspect.
Versus a Cookie Death. Well, Cookie Death's pretty
Cookie
close
Death
to.
is pretty close to, but like the
Apple
other ones,
pie
like
or-
you're adding a coconut or
Yeah.
you're doing that. That's a much different
Yeah,
variation
coconut is
of
not
it.
a flavor you usually get from malts.
No. No.
Definitely not.
We dropped the sleeve of cookies for the cookie day.
Oh, yeah. Cookie Death was, that was pretty crazy, because we didn't even know if we were going to do it or not. And then basically the recipe came about because we were like, actually, let's do it. And I was like, oh, crap, okay, we're actually going to do it. And so I started messing around with some stuff, and then actually got seedless raisin paste, and we threw that in the whirlpool, and then used a speculoos cookie compound, and we put that in the dry hop, and that's how Cookie Death came about. And a lot of oat malt.
Yeah,
The
it's so
brewers hated me because it took a long time to run off.
Yeah.
Because oats,
Soak it all up.
yeah, and they get kind of sticky. So, yeah, a little gummy. So that didn't run off great, but the end product kind of, I think it tasted like a oatmeal cookie, but, it was close. It's hard.
We enjoyed it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
So you can dry hop the cookies.
You could do that. I thought about doing that. I was like, you know what? Maybe I could throw just
do
some
a
like
legit
oatmeal
cookie
cookies
in there, yeah.
right into the mash and just like let it go. But it's kind of hard in the automated system, and
But you did that in the smaller sample one first, right?
Nope, that just went full 30-barrel batch, and I was like, I hope this works.
all right.
Just gonna send
It was a bit of a time crunch, and I was like, okay, here we go.
Because this either tastes great or open the drain.
Yeah, and then I get a lot of people mad at me because they're like, it was supposed to release on this day.
Yeah.
Oh, you committed to the release date before?
Oh yeah. No, it was a full-on
Awesome.
thing. Yep. Mm-hmm. The cartons are made, the cans are ordered. Wow. All that process takes, cartons specifically take 5 to 6 weeks to usually to make.
Yeah.
And then it also has to hit on the runs that Irish Death cartons are being made.
Oh, okay.
And so we go through, like about 300,000 just cartons of 6-pack cartons of Irish Death per year. So the way to keep the cost down is you run them in big runs.
Yep.
But if you don't hit those runs, then all of a sudden those cartons become extremely expensive.
Super expensive, yeah.
And so you have to make them hit that run. And so basically at that point, you're committing to a beer, and
committed to
if
make
you
that many
haven't
of them,
piloted it or done anything with it, you're going, we're gonna do it, and it can get a little intense, a little stressful sometimes, but.
But we've piloted some of the other ones, like tiramisu. We did a small batch, and then the Thai tea that will be after tiramisu. That was in a small batch. So.
Yeah. Yeah. That one's pretty wild.
The Thai tea?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really
saw
like
the
it.
tiramisu out there. I hadn't seen that one before.
I just saw it on the Instagram the other day when someone was showing the. Was it you
We
showing
gave a little sneak peek to
of what's on tap? Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have that really soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We get cartons hopefully next week. We've already brewed. One batch is fermenting. Two batches are fermenting. So we've got 120 barrels of it. Pretty much once those cartons show up, we got the cans already, and we're ready to go, and we're gonna start cranking it out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So how much is Irish Death right now here? Like most of the things, right? Like
Yeah.
You just play a game. Just throw a dart. Whatever tank you hit, it will be Irish Death.
Yeah, pretty much any of the big ones, that's going to be Irish Death. Like, so these are right here in front of you, these two. These are 90s, and then the two behind it are 90s. And then you've got, basically in an L shape, you've got 120s around them. And then all these over here are going to be 60 barrels. And then we've got a couple 30s kind of sprinkled in through here, and a 15 barrel fermenter all the way down at the end. And then everything else is going to be bright tanks. And we got 120s, 4 120s for bright tanks, and then we've got a 150 barrel bright tank, and then we've got 4 60 barrel bright tanks and one little 30 barrel bright tank.
What's your full capacity then?
I mean, if we like
Everything maxed out, like
cranks,
running. Yeah.
we could probably get to about 45,000 barrels a year, and that's brewing on this basically 24 hours, so 6 brews a day. You're gonna have to pause in the middle, right around like 23 brews, and you're gonna have to run a cleaning cycle on it because stuff starts to get gummy.
Built up, yeah.
And then you can just keep rolling. You basically be going 7 days a week at that point.
Wow.
And then you would have to be packaging pretty much 7 days a week as well, because you'd be basically, as soon as the tank's open, you're putting beer into it, and as soon as the beer's done conditioning, which is generally Irish, that's about 4 days, is kind of like the sweet spot, you're pulling it out and you're emptying that whole entire tank, which one of those 120s, that's about 1,400 cases worth of Irish Death, and 1,400 cases is a case of 4 6-packs.
right now, how many days a week are you guys brewing?
We brew right now basically 3 brews a day, 4 to 5 days, so pretty much every day. But we're doing about 3 brews right now per day, and that's kind of like a nice like medium
Sweet spot, yeah.
And that allows
Not running around
yeah.
as much.
But you got capacity.
Yeah.
You're not stretched in the facility. You got legs.
Nope. Yeah.
If you needed to.
Yeah, absolutely. And the reason we can do 6 brews a day is because so originally this was a four vessel system, and so basically you can come up here and see it.
I like that sweatshirt. I wish I had gotten one of those. Was that from last year? Nice.
So mash kettle. So this is where, again, that chain disc auger comes in, drops down in through the Aloysius there, mixes all the grain and water. Sits in here. The bottom is jacketed with steam. If you touch the top light or the top little green button,
Turns
it'll
on
turn the light
lights. Yeah.
And so sits in here. Generally, it takes about 2 to 2.5 hours because we step mash for most of our stuff. And again, that's about consistency, right? So the big thing for set mashing is that once we get to, we're converted and we're happy with our conversion, we heat it up to 167 degrees, and that kills all that enzymic reactivity. So no longer are you going to be drying out more or not as much. That's basically what you're doing, is you're saying, okay, we're done. We have enough sugars, fermentable sugars. We're ready to put this in. And that's the big thing, like the key for Irish Death, because Irish Death, we want it to stop at like in that 1018 to 1020 range to keep those residual sugars in there so that it tastes sweet. And we don't want it to dry out and go like down to like 1014, because that's not Irish Death anymore.
No. Yeah.
So part of that consistency stuff. And then it goes into the lauter tun here, and it's got a false bottom. It's got a rake system in it. Fun fact, in 2016, this is actually, so this is 30 barrels. This is actually designed for 40 barrels, because when we went over, we were like, we have our main beer is a high gravity beer. So we need a bigger lauter tun. So they're like, okay, an extra 10 barrels, that should do you. You should be great. Like, we don't see any problems. First brew we did in 2016 when this finally got all set up and we're like mashed in. We had the Germans here from BrauKon, and they were like, all right, let's do this. I think it took close to 14 hours to finish a brew.
Holy.
And we're like, that's not
going to work. It's not going to work.
That is not going to, that's not what we wanted at all. And so from there, we started playing around with it a lot. We started using enzymes and things like that to help break down beta-glucans, to make it less sticky, things like that. So that's what that little mini fridge is right there. That's a great brewer design for you.
Add on.
Yeah, we slap that in. That does not come stock. But this allows us to get that runoff down to now it'll take about 7.5 hours.
Okay.
And so we went from, like I said, 14 hours to 7.5. So we over a lot of time and trial and process, we were able to get it down and still tastes like Irish Death.
Nice.
Does the hop gun save time too?
So that's more of just kind of like some trial and error kind of stuff. Like, we realized all of a sudden with our IPAs, we were dumping a lot of stuff in the whirlpool because we want to make it not so bitter, but we want a lot of hop aroma. Problem being is that when you have a 30 barrel brew house and you dump hops in there, its residence time is going to be about an hour. And so we were seeing a utilization, like normal utilization is going to be like right around like 5% or something like that. And we were seeing upwards of like 14 to 15% utilization on our hops. And we're like, everything we were brewing, we were like, that's way more bitter than what we wanted. And come to find out, that's why. So the hop gun over there is another addition. That is actually from BrauKon. It took a long time to get here because, as you can tell, it got held up in customs for a little bit. Yeah. And what that allows us to do is run that 70-degree wort through there and pick up those aromas, but not have the utilization happen with the alpha acids. And so that's just something that we do with some of our bigger hopped beers. And then
I want to tell you guys about. I don't have a mic, so I don't know if it,
I'm close enough. We're fine.
We're picking you up, or they can donate you.
When you've got an automated system and you don't know how to run the system, and you, and you come in and you're thinking, oh, this is fun, I'll show my friends this system, and you open the door and then you close it, and then the system says that we've got an error, or there's a fault, and then you get a phone call the next morning, hey, were you in the brew house? It didn't mash in at 1 a.m. like it was supposed to. So it's not all upside.
If you go and mess with it, it turns out.
If people that don't belong there are in there, problems.
So you can see these keys here. So if you open this door, this light shuts off and it says the door is open. So unless you reset it, it's a no-go.
It will not be mashing in at 1 in the morning.
Lesson learned?
Like, yeah, totally. Well, I don't know.
Since then, yeah.
I've only made that mistake once, maybe twice, but plenty of other mistakes that are basically the same.
Learn.
It is, yeah. I know the system better now thanks to that.
It is one of those things that when you talk about now the hop gun and all these different things, where like when you think about the technical brewing process, like it is simple if you're just trying to make a beer. But it seems like more when you're trying to make a specific beer or repeatedly a specific beer, then it becomes like now we need to get all these little extra things that then kind of make the process. It makes it simpler in the fact that you're making the same thing consistency, but it seems like it's a tougher process now. Do you find that like it, or is it still simpler because you have all the tools now?
It's simpler. We have the tools now. It's the understanding of getting those tools and knowing that you need them.
Yeah.
That's the part that's the complicated process. So,
well, like you talked about, is implementing those tools into the process, but still having the same end result.
yes.
Right? So you still want Irish Death at the end, but you didn't have these pieces there, but you still want it to taste the same. And how do we do the same?
Yeah.
End up with the same result, but add in things that make it, at the end of the day, easier.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a different pressure on contemporary brewing than I'm sure it was medieval brewing, or we want the same thing day in, week in, year out.
Yeah.
And Tyson used to talk about this. He said, it's nice to be a winemaker. Your customers expect it to be different every year.
Yeah.
Vintage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good vintage. This is a bad vintage. This vintage has this, and not Irish Death. There's no vintages. They want the same thing year in, year out.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with natural products, hops and malts.
Well, I think that goes to what we were talking about earlier, those ones that like you look at their Untapped and they have 600, 700 beers. Have they just decided we're not doing that? Like we're going to be the wine and just, we made this IPA, it's a little different than last time, so it's got a new name instead of it being the same one. I think it was like Cloudburst or somebody who had an original intent of like, we're never making the same beer again. And I wonder how much is that aspect of it's like, we don't have to worry about, we have quality control that it's a good beer, but we don't have to have quality control that is it the same beer? Is it the same thing?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a live by the sword, die by the sword, I don't know, a blessing and a curse. Irish Death keeps the doors open.
For sure.
We live by death, but man, nobody here really wants to brew it anymore. It's like, God.
See, and that's got to be the real tough part of it too.
Yeah.
It's like at some point you're like, we just make this same thing because.
Yeah. I love Irish Death, but I probably drink it maybe like, I don't know, 2-3 times a year.
Yeah.
Because for the most part, you're coming in every single morning and you're going, I'm going to taste Irish Death. Because we taste everything before we package it.
Yeah.
So you get a little schooner glass and you go, yep, okay, it's Irish Death. All right, yep.
Yeah.
It's always funny because like when we hire like new employees, the first time they come in, we package a lot of Irish Deaths, so we have a lot of like low fills and things like that we're not going to send out to the market. And you see these guys just walking around like taking like flats and cases of bottles home and things like that. And they're like, this is awesome. And then about usually on month 2, they're like, nah, I'm okay. Like, I've had enough Irish Death for right now. But no, it's a great beer.
Like you said, keeps the lights on. And is a fantastic beer. We don't have to taste it every day, so we will grab it every time we are walking by at the supermarket.
I was gonna say, I'll bring it up at some point, but like, I buy it at Costco now.
Oh yeah.
Like, literally a 4-pack of Tall Boys for like $7. Like, I don't know how it makes sense for you guys, but like, it works for me. So.
Right on. We're not worried about us. So I'm glad it works for you.
I can send us down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So wort kettle. So in here you can see this is the calandria, and then basically what happens, all that beer is pumped continuously, and there's pipes in there that have steam basically coming through. So these big pipes here, you can see it kind of over there, all that goes back into our boiler room. And so we have a boiler, low pressure steam boiler back there. It does 15 psi. That feeds this entire brew house, the pumps, and has a recirc system. So any liquid then goes back into the boilers, reused. But boils in here for about 60 minutes. It's super highly efficient, so we have very little loss. So a lot of like our direct fire, we would have, you'd lose like 1 to 2 barrels, maybe 3 sometimes, depending on how long the boil is. This, we barely lose anything. And that's because basically as it's circulating, it's spreading over that disperser plate. Technically they call it a China hat. Nobody's written. Yeah. Keep it PC.
Feeling a little sensitive.
Yeah.
You're gonna beep that out.
And so what happens is then that gets rid of your DMS right there. And it happens in a simple 20-minute process, strip and split DMS process. And it's just running it over those. Basically, it's then taking that steam out and dumping it right basically to the ground. And you can walk by it. And it's actually one of the worst parts about the system is that you just kind of smell moldy vegetables when it's boiling because you're like, what in the hell? And it's just literally coming out of that little pipe right there and goes straight down to the drain. And it's less than, I think it's right around like 5 to 10 gallons of steam, like water, condensed water at that point, that you can just, if you took it in a glass and you smelled it, you're like, that smells like canned corn, broccoli, Vegemite mix. Yeah. That you just don't like. But yeah.
Has it done a lot? I remember I feel like you guys a while ago really talked about your like usage of water per gallon of beer. And like, has this been kind of one of the keys for that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Basically, the amount of time, so that tank right back there, that's our hot liquid tank. So that's our hot water. We don't really have to refill that very often, if at all. I mean, throughout an entire brew day, we may put a couple gallons in there.
Because it's just...
Yeah, because this is all an enclosed system, basically, and anything that we use cold water wise goes directly back into the hot water tank there for the most part. So our water usage is very, very good for industry standards.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember hearing a number of years ago, and I mean, when you looked around compared to what other people would do, it seemed lower than than what most could do.
Yeah, we've gotten pretty good at anything waste disposal, stuff like that. Like all of our yeast goes out to a slurry tank. All of our hop, true, anything left over after a brew goes out to that slurry tank. We're trying to put as little down the drain as we possibly can.
Where's that slurry tank go?
That goes to a local farmer. He takes it.
I was gonna say, we did the same thing when we had pigs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hops and grains.
Yep. All the grain goes out of there. You can see that big 4-inch pipe that runs out through the wall. There's a spent grain silo out back that all goes to P&W beef.
Awesome.
It's usually a little over like 1 million pounds per year.
Wow.
Yeah. So
they utilize it all.
Yep. I mean, at that point, it's just straight protein, and so they mix it with hay and things like that, and feed it to their cows. It's a great supplement for them, and then we don't have to pay to dispose of it.
Great.
Did you ever
cooperative of different ranches, so they could take on a lot?
Yeah.
Cool.
No, it's really cool.
Yeah.
Did you ever feed the pigs beer?
Sure did.
They get really drunk the first time.
They got a little wily. The worst. We had the freezer fail. Downstairs freezer went out when I was living with my parents when we were raising them. So freezer's gone, everything's going bad, and I just take it and just feed it to the pigs. And told my mom about it, and she's like, "So you fed them everything in the freezer?" Yeah. I mean, it was all going to go bad anyway, including last year's pigs.
Oh no.
Yep. I guess I did. Yeah. So.
Oops. All right.
It's not the weirdest thing I've heard people.
So yeah, beer would not be the worst thing that
Extra marbling. I took some beer out to some pigs and a local farmer, and we fed them as much as they wanted, and they bellied up to the trough, just guzzled it.
Yeah.
And then they wandered off and fell asleep, and then we would startle them, they'd jump up and fall over, and so it was clear they got pretty pickled. The next day, put more beer out, they wouldn't touch it.
Oh, really?
And never drank it again.
They're like, we've learned our lesson.
They had a hangover.
Yeah,
They actually learned better than us.
that's what I'm thinking. The moral of the story is pigs
like,
may be smarter than humans,
They're way
but
smarter than humans.
At least
the
where
only
that's
time
concerned.
I ever gave beer to pigs was right before slaughter, right before the, just to like
Mellow
chill
them
them
out.
out.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
An actual more practical reason than just.
We have extra.
I hope I get beer right before I go to my slaughter.
Hey, I'll be a happy camper.
Yeah, like this could be worse.
Yeah.
Like there could be no beer.
For sure.
Yeah, last meal, beer.
Beer.
Yeah.
Right. I told him about your 4-day fast.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
On liquid lunch.
Did you ever count how many liquid lunches you drank?
I got to do it again and do more.
It didn't feel like you were ever really drunk.
You sustained well though, like you were like.
Yeah, day 2 started to feel kind of weak, and then 3 a little goofy, and then day 4 I was thinking I could just keep going for good.
Yeah.
Just like the new wave
You
hit.
did get really quiet. Like Greg is
Yeah.
usually like the instigator of like really big conversations and boisterous stuff, and you got really like quiet and meditative.
Just leaning on stuff.
I was like, oh
No
man.
energy.
Yeah. Yeah,
Seems about right.
and I didn't. Yeah, I maybe had. I think the last day I had 2 beers or something like that. But that first beer, oh my god, because I had gone a full day with
Oh, nothing.
just water,
Yeah.
and that first beer tasted so good.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
This is also not originally part of the BrauKon.
That was a part of the original brew house.
Yeah.
Prospect Street.
Yes.
Brought it over?
Yep.
Yeah, bought that from Jim Quilter directly.
Yep. So this tank has been around for a very long time, and basically what we did was we wanted to crank out more beer quicker, and the limiting factor was our lauter tun, our wort kettle.
Okay.
So it takes 60 minutes to boil, right, and then transfer and everything like that. So it's about 80 minutes that you have, 80 to 90 minutes that you have residence time in there. So you couldn't mash in right off the bat. You'd have to kind of wait for that 80 minutes to be clear, so that when you transferred into the lauter tun, it could run off directly into the kettle. So we're like, well, how do we make that faster? And we put basically what this is called is an underback. So now, while it's boiling, we're running off into this. And then once the boil's done, it's transferred into the whirlpool. All the liquid that's in there gets moved into the kettle. And
To just restart you ready
and
to go right
restarts,
away.
Yeah, and so we're, you can hold 15 barrels in there, and usually we can, that's now our limiting factor is the lauter tun. Like if we could run off faster, then we could go faster. But lauter tun's kind of where it's at. But so this increased our capacity. We were able to do 4 brews in a day, and now we can do 6.
Which that was kind of the fun part of when we were, it was really busy. We were ramping up and really had to figure out how do you optimize, and just looking at bottlenecks, like manufacturing has bottlenecks. Or what's the limiting factor here? And then started to look for, and then you create a new limiting factor, and it's like chasing that for me was just interesting. It was really fun, and I didn't find any of the solutions, but I was along for the ride.
Sure
So.
you
I just asked the nuisance questions. I go, yeah, does it always have to be that way? I'm like, oh my God.
Once you find the right question, that's when you have a breakthrough.
Totally, yeah. Yeah, people are always looking for answers. I'm just looking for better questions.
I like that. I'm going to steal that.
By all means, it's surely not mine. I probably,
Use the helps.
You
yeah.
guys can write Zen in the Art of Brewing in breweries.
Oh,
And the art of beer reviews.
Yeah. There you
we'll,
go.
we'll do Zen in the Art of Ignoring Brewery Maintenance.
Yeah, that looks like it's gonna break,
Yeah.
but not today.
Yeah. And we have done it.
Yeah, we took our inspiration from farmers.
Yeah.
There's never enough time to fix it right, but there's always enough time to fix it again.
Over
Absolutely.
and over and
Yeah.
over.
Just got to work today.
Yeah, just gotta work today.
As long as you have some baling twine and some wire.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a lot of pieces and parts and stuff to all this. Like,
Oh yeah.
This is the dumbest idea imaginable. Filling a building with electrical motors, moving parts, and sticky liquid.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
I mean, when you put it like that, yeah.
Yeah.
It
And
does
dust.
seem.
Yeah.
And dust, and yeah.
There's a building dedicated to keeping liquid confined. And it's going to find every
Imaginable way to
Yeah.
get out.
What's
and that's the fight.
the worst you've seen here?
Worst I've seen.
What about
oh,
the,
man, I have so many stories.
The machine, the time machine. You told me a good story about the centrifuge. When I felt bad
time
because
machine,
I
I like
spent
that.
too much
This is
money.
Jake's.
Time machine. This is
We do.
That's my personal fuck up. So
It's-
thank you for bringing it up. Yeah, I appreciate it.
I thought that was a collective fuck up.
No, that was just me.
It's also a gravity accelerator, but Jake doesn't want to talk about it.
It's okay.
I can
It's
talk
okay.
I think the good one of the good ones was when we came in and the pipe, a big fat of ice had fallen off, a big chunk of ice had fallen off the side of the roof, and it broke the pipes to the wastewater treatment tank. So this thing's just gushing. It's like a 6,000. There's a brown stream running down the driveway.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Eddie, one of the guys that works here, he calls me. He's like, I don't know what's going on, but all the water out of that tank is coming out. And I was like, what do you mean? And I'm like, what tank? I'm so confused. And I go out and I just see this river of stuff. And I'm like, how did this even happen? And I close the valve, and luckily it broke before the valve, so I closed the valve. And I'm just like, did somebody, like an ex-employee come by and like smash this with a bat or something? Like,
Piss off that many people?
Did Eddie do this before he left? Because it was like he was almost done. Like he was, was going to start his new job in like a week or something like that. And I was like, did Eddie just like stomp on these? And nope, it was just ice fell down off a pipe. And then me and Gray, it was right in the middle of that big snowstorm too. So there's like 3 feet of snow out there. So it was literally just, it couldn't go anywhere. And so me and Gray were out there shoveling snow and creating a path down to the ditch. Yeah, because they're just like, I mean, it's all treated at this point, so there's nothing harmful in it.
Yeah.
And it's at a neutral pH because we have to do that to discharge down to the city. So all it is basically just beer, water, and a little bit of like grain and stuff like that. That it's just been constantly circulated and treated in a giant wastewater tank, and so. Nothing bad, but still
Not
bad
great.
on our part going
Yeah.
like, and then the worst part is looking at that and going, I have to fix this.
right. But you didn't have a herd of college students coming in, lapping up free beer.
It doesn't smell very good. I can tell you that.
We used to have parties inside the brewery back on Prospect Street.
Yeah.
So, gosh, it was almost kind of like be standing here, and we had a grant, a ladder ton grant, for monitoring flow. And we would leave it, at that time we would sanitize with iodine.
Okay.
So if you mix that and it looks like an amber,
Yeah.
if you mix. So so we're having this party in the brewery and I'm standing there. I see this guy, just kind of gets this look in his eye and he checking out the grant. He dips his cup in it and takes a swig, which I knew it wouldn't hurt him. It might have cleared him out, but
Definitely cleared him out.
Serves you right.
that's what I was thinking.
Stick
Yeah.
in your cup where you.
Yeah.
So you can see these big barrels. Like this is the same thing too at the brewery at the old place. And I remember a similar story where a guy walked by and he's like, "Yeah, this is just beer that's escaped." And he like grabs it and takes it and drinks it. And I was like, "That definitely didn't taste good at all. It was just yeast and foam and a little bit of. There might be some beer in there, but it's not gonna be great."
Not enough to help you.
I like to suggest to people to smell the blow-off buckets because it's all CO2. Have you ever done that? Like stuck your face in the blow-off bucket and got a full? No. It's intense. It'll drop you. It hurts. It's like burning your, and it's not harmful,
All
but
the alarm bells are going off. You should
Well,
not be
it's not
smelling
harmful
this.
if you do it for a sniff.
right,
but
yeah,
Yeah.
Don't stick around.
It's like when you.
Brewers smell like salt.
yeah. Wake up!
Yeah, it's like when you open one of these like giant
Oh, God.
120s. You open that door because you gotta pull the seal off before you caustic it and clean it and everything like that. And it's just straight. If you go in like and lean too far in, you're like, oh wow, okay, hello.
It's like your skin can sense it. I
Yeah.
swear. Even if you plug your nose and hold your breath and stick your head in it, it'll just repel you.
We're just wired like
Yeah.
you sense that thing and all run away.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But it does smell good too, the blow-off bucket. So if you can get the right spot.
The right balance.
Yeah. So sometimes I'll do it like with good intentions. Hey, just smell that, and then they get too deep. It's like, oh, come on! Like you went too deep. The smell's toward the top. But I do love the smell of fermentation. It's so
Yeah.
good. It's like this fruity aromas and.
it's funny because like you since I work here, I don't really notice it, and then I'll be gone. Like I'll take a vacation, or I'll be gone for a week or 2 weeks, and come back, and you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I was like, do I smell like that? My wife's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yes, you
come
do.
home and you smell like that. Like, that's the smell I associate you with now. Like you come home from a 2-week vacation and she hasn't seen me. Like I went on a moose hunt and I came back and she's like, you smell different. What did you do? And I was like, I don't know. I camped in a tent.
I didn't
shower for 7 days.
God, I didn't even think about that.
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, it is.
But so once it's in the whirlpool, then we go over here. This is where we transfer through. So basically, you can see all these valves. Goes to different spots.
None of them work. They're just for decoration.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool looking, isn't it?
Yeah. Runs it through the heat X here. Cools it down. Cool it down to whatever degree we were going to ferment at. Usually, most of our stuff we're doing right around 68 to 70 degrees. Some of our lagers like the Midlight and Gato Grande and stuff like that. We're using this cool yeast called Fresh DF, which is a diacetyl-free yeast, which is awesome. Basically, it doesn't have any of the precursors for creating diacetyl, so you don't have to ferment for as long. Don't have butter, so
is that the big difference between like homebrew and like? Because I feel like it's also just a theory of change that like we used to like let it ferment for weeks, but yet you were like, oh, we got like 4 or 5 days and we're good to go and turn it around. Like, is that the difference? Is utilizing something like that, or is there other things?
Using yeast nutrients as well, and then we're pitching at a certain rate. So for Irish Death, it's like 19 million cells per gallon, gallon basically. So you're having a very happy, healthy yeast, and you're feeding it nutrients and then a lot of oxygen, so it grows rapidly, and then it ferments quickly. Right. And then you're keeping it under that nice controlled temperature, because obviously when you're talking about like volumes like this, like it will actually kill itself, because if you didn't temperature control it, it's going to get up to our glycol's gone out a couple times, and we come in, we're like, cool, that Irish Death's at 98 degrees.
Jeez.
That's toast.
Yeah. It's crazy how much heat they produce.
Yeah.
So I think that's it. Yeah, it's a matter of yeast health and just a healthy fermentation, and it's just hard to get those conditions. Home brewing, proper amount of oxygen and right amount.
Yeah, they're doing way more than one smack pack for 5 gallons.
Yeah, and we're most of our yeast we're ordering in live pitches, so it's already alive, ready to go. Okay. It's literally showing up overnight. They ship it from their facility. We get it, we feed it a little bit, dump it in the tank, and then beer's in it within the next couple hours.
So you bring it all in live, you don't harvest, then
we do harvest. Okay. Yep, yeah. So these are our yeast springs here, and so we'll go on average about 10 to 12 generations. Okay. For our yeast, if we can. It's harder with some of our other stuff, like the Imperial IPA. We're kind of struggling with keeping that viability up, because it's just high alcohol, a lot of hops. Keeping that yeast healthy and happy is just difficult to do. So part of what we're doing is we're harvesting before we dry hop. So we're crashing it down to like a 58 degree, then harvesting that yeast, and then feeding it a little bit, kind of trying to keep it happy and healthy so that we can reuse those pitches, because yeast pitches are not cheap.
Yeah.
And so if you can only use it for one generation, then that's a lot of cost. And for Irish Death, Tyson Reed, the old head brewer, guy who taught me pretty much everything, he figured out a way that we get a 12.4 barrel pitchable, like a 12 barrel pitchable basically. So we put it into a 60 barrel fermenter. We put 3 barrels of yeast into, or 3 barrels of beer into it, and that yeast starts to grow. And then 24 hours later, we put 30 barrels in there, and that yeast continues to grow. Okay. And then 24 hours later, we fill the tank with 60 total barrels, and that yeast continues to grow. So it never really gets out of its growth stage. Yeah. And so it just continues to grow and grow and grow, and then now we have enough yeast to pitch for a 120. And so we're just basically propagating that yeast up in a way that we can to mitigate cost and keep it happy and healthy, which is hard when it's Irish Death, because Irish Death's a big beer. So a 1078 beer, yeast doesn't necessarily like that. No, for the most part.
yeast tenders. That's what we are.
Yeah.
They do all the work.
Yeah.
Magic.
Pretty much.
They're awesome.
Yeast farmers.
Yeah. And cleaners. And that's pretty much what we do.
They're like things they just want to eat.
Yeah.
Eat, poop, and die.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I went to White Yeast one time for a yeast training or introductory course or something like that. Yeah. And he's telling me the process. They go in this room and the balls of yeast are frozen 30 below zero or whatever, and they chip a little bit off when we call an order a pitch. If we used White Yeast, whoever. So you chip a little off and they grow it up. It's kind of like you were talking about. So I asked him, I said, well, what happens when you get to the end of the ball? Because this is this genetically pure, the original strain, and they didn't have an answer for that.
Because they haven't done it yet, or like
I don't know.
They didn't want to give away their trade secret. Like
Probably not going to tell you.
I got the impression like just we're screwed. Then it's just that strain's over.
business done.
End of an era.
Yeah, like well, it was California 5, but now it's California 5.1 because it's the next generation. We lost the original.
Yeah, because that's why we only go about 12 generations. We're starting to kind of do a little research to see if we can go farther. But what you'll see is it used to start to mutate and change.
Getting too far away from the original.
Yeah, and then you'll have like it doesn't flocculate as well, or it ferments too fast and leaves a lot of diacetyl, or it does this, and so you just start to see little changes as you get farther and farther out there. So
you've been feeding the Irish death for 12 generations.
yeah, exactly.
Who wouldn't be deranged?
For sure. So any fermenter, it's got the cone bottom on it. Obviously, that's for harvesting, repitching yeast. And then once it's done there, we run it through our centrifuge, which I can go show you over there.
Sure. That's the time you get
my
beer
story
faster.
about the centrifuge.
Reluctantly.
Yes.
What size is like the brewing crew like that you have? Like what size is your guys' crew like brewing?
So we have 2 brewers. We have 1 cellar, and then we have QC, me, packaging. We have 2 people as well. We're a pretty tight knit crew right now. We've kind of switched out how we're doing things, and so a lot of people are cross-trained in multiple areas. So we've got people that can brew and run the centrifuge and run the canner and the whole thing.
Okay.
You smell it? Nice. So this is the centrifuge. So this is still traditionally non-filtered beer, but basically what it's doing is spinning at 6,000 RPMs, pulling out any solids, and then pushing out nice, clean, clear liquid. So the story that Christina had mentioned, I wrote a blog about it. It was the time I fucked up the centrifuge. So what happened was, this was probably like, do you remember when this was? This is like 2016 or something like that?
Wasn't that long ago?
2017? Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Okay.
So we got this right when we moved here. Might have even been longer. It might have been like 2014.
Push past. That's past you.
Yeah.
Somebody else's problem.
Absolutely. So what happened was we created this beer called Finger Guns, and it was super hoppy.
Yes.
And part of the thing is we got the centrifuge because we wanted to be able to run super hoppy beers through this and pull out those hops and get better yields. And so we get more liquid into a bright tank for package. First time we run Finger Guns, what happened was it wasn't discharging fast enough. And there's some settings that we've messed with and done, but this is, again, a learning process. What was happening is the hops were sticking to the side of the bowl, like here.
Oh.
And this thing has vibration sensors. So as soon as it starts to vibrate too much, it goes, nope, done, stop. And we were getting a lot of vibration, and so we're getting alarms. So then what we have to do, take all these off. And there's a big locking ring that you have to, literally there's just it's a thing that you bolt onto it, and then you beat it with a hammer. Like it's a club, actually. It's not even a hammer. It's literally just a beating stick.
You got a $200,000 precision machine
That comes with a club.
Yeah,
comes with a
exactly.
club for maintenance.
Yeah, you hand a club to Bam Bam to install things.
So you have to take all that out, then you have to lift it out with a forklift because the total thing weighs about 5,000 pounds. So you have to lift it out with a forklift. It's a multi-step process. We had done that about 7 times. And it was about 1 in the morning, and I had been here I think since like 5:30.
Great decisions.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm super engaged and happy to be here. Up here is basically a centrifugal pump, is what they call it, but it's a disc system kind of, and it kind of sits up on top, and basically that's where the beer comes through, runs down plates, and then it shocks it, and those solids will actually fall off of it. There's a locking ring on that, and it's little. It's about that big.
Okay.
Didn't put that back on.
Oh, extra parts are always good when you're done with the project.
Yeah. It's great in the manual too. It says like this is a part you need to reassemble, but it's like a doesn't actually say make sure this is back on. Don't know why. Probably because they're like, well, who would never put this back on? I did. And so spin it back up. We're gonna finish the transfer because we got about like 15 barrels left. It's gonna take like 20-30 minutes. Spin it back up. I'm sitting over there by the brew house. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be the last of it. We're almost done. We dumped off the beer, like got rid of some of the hops, so it'll be over. And then all of a sudden, you just hear this like horrible like bang and grinding, and I'm like, that's not good. And centrifuge shuts down, and I go over and I'm like, what is going on? Why is this doing this? And I look and I'm like, because the lock ring is sitting on. Oh no. And then you have to just sit here because it doesn't have a brake or anything like that. So it got up to about 5,000 RPMs, and then it's just gonna slowly go down. And so I just sat here in misery and listened to grinding metal, knowing how bad I messed up. And pulled it apart. Had to get a loaner bowl because it shut down our whole process. Took about we were down for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. And then, got a loaner bowl, spun it back up. We're all good there. Cost us somewhere in the range of like $45,000, which is
expensive.
Yeah, which is why I still thank Greg. I'm like, hey, thanks for not firing me.
I would have quit after a day like that.
I'm out of here.
Screw this place. I've been here 13 hours. Something else screws up. Or I guess it's more like 19 hours at that point.
And that's the story Jake told me after I bought too much ice for an event. I was feeling horrible about it. I was feeling so horrible. I spent like several $100s extra on ice than we needed. He's like, let me tell you a story.
Few $100s.
We all make mistakes.
No big deal.
We just learn from them.
Funny, I don't remember it costing that much, Jake.
I might have cooked the books a little bit. I'm like, oh no, it only cost us like $5,000, and all this other stuff was maintenance.
Well, it's probably just as expensive. I mean, that's a throw you under the bus.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Being shut down and not being able to process for that.
Yeah. We were basically going back to the old school way where we were just doing a hose to tank transfer on some of the stuff that had sat for a long time, and we were able to package that, and we were confident with it. But it has to sit in a fermenter for much longer because like I said, when we crash it now, it's a 2-day crash, and then we harvest yeast, and then we're transferring. If you do a tank to tank transfer, you crash it down, and then you wait and you dump off yeast, and you wait and you dump off some yeast, and you wait and you dump off some more yeast, and you wait. So it's like, it changes from a 2-day crash and transfer to like 2 weeks and then transfer.
Like the good old days.
Yeah.
I don't want to rush the tour, but the tap room's going to open soon. So should we do the tasting?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and we can also do upstairs too.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Time flies when you're talking about beer,
right?
The beer is mobile.
Grab my tools.
And I can talk a lot too, so.
Oh, you're all good.
So can we. Like we said, there's a reason we set a timer.
And then this is the canner right here. So this is like our, this is
That's my favorite.
where a lot of our production
here?
goes now. This does 16 and 12 ounce cans. So you can change it over, and you can see Cans show up like
See,
that.
now we looks like
basically
we
in a pallet,
poked a hole in the
or
side so you
full
can't
truckloads, we get 25 pallets.
brain yourself
goes
with
into that
CO2
deep
anymore.
house system there,
So it releases.
raises it up layer by
Yeah.
layer, pushes it off. Cans come down through 6 little fillers are CO2, so it washes the can. Just spray CO2 in there. Next 2 are where the actual liquid comes in, and then you can see it's got those little sensors up here. Those are basically your fill sensors, so it's going to say where it's at. Comes down through here, and then this is a lid applicator, so the cans come through and drops LOEs on it. Comes into the seamer here, and basically this lifts it up, hits this chuck here, and then these 2 seamers come in, seam it. Yep.
That's some voodoo shit right there. Like I don't know how it makes like the multiple curves still to this day.
At 80 cans a minute. I mean,
Seams are like the biggest nightmare that I think I've ever experienced. When you're talking about thousands of a millimeter difference, and it's off by a little bit, and it's like, now it leaks.
Packaging was conceived by the devil.
Yeah. Morgan is a scholar and a saint for what he does with seams, because it's a very trial and error process on machines like this, and you can get to a point where you're like, I have tried everything and it's still not working.
And then you just do something random. Like,
Yeah.
oh, that worked. Cool.
Cool. Now we can run.
How do you repeat that? I don't know.
What are you talking about?
I got angry, swore in a corner, and kicked it. Now it works.
Yeah.
Like, how did that happen?
Occasionally, that's the next step on
Progressive maintenance is usually like the final step. Like, well, I'll just hit it and see if that helps. Then we got our little Maheen bottler over here. This has been the brewery almost as long as I have. So the 22-ounce bottle filler.
Which, I mean, was the OG of
That was crap.
getting stuff out.
Oh, yeah.
What
We used-
percentage you guys go out in bottles anymore versus cans?
Not even close on bottles. We do about 400 cases per month, right around.
Compared to what? 4,000 or 5,000 cases of
7.
can? 7?
Yeah, 7 to 9. Not even close. But we used to do probably like 1,200 cases a week on this thing.
I mean, because this is what, but that, it seems so ridiculous too, that you're like looking at this little thing compared to all of this.
Packaging is the devil.
But like, this is what craft beer, I mean, this is what I used to buy Irish Death in. This
Totally.
is what I used to,
Grew up on. I mean,
yeah, I mean, when we used to go, well, and when we were starting to like review beer years ago, like you would go and buy a 22 of something, and that's what you would then split. You go to a bottle share. We didn't go to a can share, like,
Yeah.
but it's not that anymore.
No, I mean, it was pretty crazy how fast it shifted. And we were kind of lucky enough to be on top of the shift.
Well, and you guys were ahead of it in canning and stuff, obviously well before COVID.
Yep.
Like, you've been canning for a very long time.
Since 2015.
Sounds about right, yeah.
Yeah. Because that was the other thing, is people who weren't doing this, and then when COVID hit, like, it
Oh, man.
became a, like,
It was tough.
for some, it was the death of them. Like, and some, they just had to adapt. But yeah,
Yeah, because I mean, these machines aren't cheap either. So
can't imagine.
And the products aren't cheap either. Like, you know, you start all of a sudden, like a 22-ounce bottle, you paid for a label, a bottle, and a cap, and you're good. And now with the can, you're paying for the can, you're paying for the LOE, you're paying for the machine that's quite expensive. You're paying for the packaging on the other side of it. So you've just increased your costs by quite a bit. Like, I get it, the consumer likes it better because they can get 6-pack and you can share it with friends and things like that. But margin-wise for us, it's a little rough.
I didn't think about that part.
Everybody should switch to draft beer only. Fill your growlers. It's less waste. It's
Absolutely.
better margins. Then you have kegs for keg throwing competitions. I mean, it's just
Well, and that seems to be, I mean, the opposite way that the consumer is going right now. right?
Totally,
That
yeah.
Draft is
Draft's dying.
failing, which is,
disappointing for
Yep.
us, right?
yeah.
Craft beer fans.
Yeah, I mean, I still love going and I mean, there used to be jokes about like, wow, you have Irish Death on tap compared to in the bottle. That's completely different. It's a different, you got to try it on, you know, but reality, it's just a different thing of having a pint poured for you and sitting down somewhere compared to.
well, and the supply chain for kegs is a little more controlled. kegs aren't stored in the back of a grocery store or out in an unrefrigerated warehouse. So ultimately, the product's treated with a little bit more consistent care. Yeah.
True. Yeah.
And it's the most stable environment that beer can be in.
Yeah.
That is the one thing about cans is they're more stable than bottles, but it's still hard though for smaller systems like this because your DO is still going to be pretty high. So you're trying to keep DO down. You're just trying to make a product that'll last as long as possible into a can.
Yeah.
And then, speaking of that, there's our little kegger right there. Do 20 kegs an hour, a little over. If you're moving, you can do 24 an hour.
That's the other reason why I just suggest everybody go to draft beer. I mean, look at that.
Yeah.
It's got a 200 square foot footprint.
Say that.
You could have 6 of
A
them.
bit cheaper than this whole.
That too, yeah. It's about a tenth of the price, and we could totally, yeah.
Yeah, that's the Whoa up there is just all cans.
Yeah.
And
And
then
the
if
Red
you
Barn.
go out into the Red Barn, it's all cans.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's the thing is the 7 Seas, they have like in their area, I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's multi-level. But
Yeah.
they have the production is on the same level as the tap room, and underneath it is all like more. It's literally just like a sea of cans and canning lines and stuff like that because it's it's way more massive.
So the name was actually referring to the can storage, 7 Seas.
this is just real quick. This is our CIP system. So all these pipes, basically, you can see those kind of little spots where there's pipes running in. You got little different connection hookups. I think we have 5 throughout the brewery, and this is all controlled by the BrauKon system as well. So you hook up a tank to the pump, plug it in, click start, and it runs a cleaning cycle on that tank.
See, now if I could get that on my home brew, that would help me with.
It makes things a lot better.
Let's get a little bit big enough. Just pay them to clean it out.
Yeah.
This is our case erector. So these are what Irish Death goes into. So basically, it comes like this. Put it into that erector there up at the top, and comes down, opens it up, folds it, glues it, shoves cans in there, and boom, ready to go.
Nice.
I don't know if you guys were following our Instagram.
Oh, I
about
was dying laughing at the
shitty
latest.
boxes.
Yes, the latest one where
The baby
these
carrier.
are now good.
Yeah.
They're a little thicker. So
No more shitty boxes.
That was our case of cookie dough.
yeah.
Oh, was the terrible boxes? Yeah, I've had a couple of them. I had Gato Grande. That was the same way too.
Well, we apologize. Overseas shipping during COVID was pretty nasty, and they were like, "Here's how you can save money," and we're like, "That sounds great. Let's try it out." And it didn't go well.
Not do that.
Yeah, it's one of those things.
We might be done for a little while.
Yeah, we're not. I don't think we're switching to anything different for quite a while. So.
I give it 3 years before we give it another try. Not the same stuff, just something.
Yeah, just something else.
Something will catch the eye. Wait a second, what's that?
Yeah, we'll try it out.
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh
Yeah.
no.
I'll go back to picking up the flat here at the store.
Oh, for sure.
There you go. Yeah, because this is basically a little tray former. It does it automatically, glues it, sets it up. And then over there is our pack decker, and that's what we use for 16-ounce cans. Just automatically applies pack text to them.
It's the one thing I need to figure out is how to get rid of pack tech. Is it recyclable? Is it not recyclable?
Some of them are. There's some cool stuff coming out that I'm starting to look into. It's like actual cardboard that you can recycle.
Like the wraparound ones?
Yep.
I've seen, there's a few, who had one of those?
My understanding is basically if whatever you think is getting recycled as plastic, it's not.
It's also, that's...
It's like 90% is going to the garbage. So.
I've broken his heart a couple times.
Yeah.
I have stacks and stacks of pack tech in my, like, oh, there's got to be a good way to like, and I keep it all because it's like the one
This is
time
the
I'm
last
like, oh, I'm
area.
going to take a mixed 4-pack to my
It
friend's
smells like
house.
tacos
I'm
in
like,
here.
I really don't need
Tacos
400 of
burritos
these.
cooked in the warehouse
Sure
over
you do.
there. But
How long does stuff stay in here in
not
general?
very long. Anything on this side does not stay here for very long.
Okay.
All the Irish Death. We're gonna go through pretty much all those 16-ounce cans. All the 12 packs are gonna be gone next week, so we're gonna have to redo 12 packs, and then all those 6 packs that are sitting here are already allocated for orders. And there's actually 2,000 cases sitting in the warehouse right now that get picked up on Monday.
Wow. These are the bad guys?
These are the local. This is it. As you can see, there is nothing but Irish Death on
There's two reasons why there's only Irish Death. One, that's mostly what we make. Two, anything that hits that shelf that's not Irish Death gets picked up real fast.
Right away.
And then all this stuff on this side is all like our seasonal, different brands and things like that. This is all our taproom inventory here, and these are just basically they're dented.
Dent and ding sale.
Can you just sell those locally? Like, can you sell them like that and it's fine? Okay. I think I've seen the advertisement. I'm like, probably not worth the drive for that.
Depends on how much storage space you have.
Well, we have people passing through. We can.
And if you get it on at the right time, yes.
And if you want anything off the shelf, we'll give it to you for free. It's the best part.
That's like, he came one time and he cleared out a convenience store that was like closed, changing brands or doing something, and you just were like, I don't drink caffeine, here's a bunch of energy drinks. And I was like, I'm gonna pick and choose the ones that I actually am interested in.
All right, well, should we go try some of those beers now?
Sure. 100%. Where am I going? Yeah, I was
This way.
like, I don't know where I'm at now. Mug Club sell out this year?
We actually increased our Mug Club membership by about 32 people, so we have 78 in our Mug Club this year.
Nice.
Yeah, we're doing some cool stuff with that too. It's a random drawing.
Hopefully, yours at home are half full as well, and we'll catch you next time.
If you've enjoyed what you just heard, make sure you subscribe to get new episodes when they drop, and don't forget to leave us a review. If you want to see what we're drinking when we're not on the pod, you can follow us on social media at A Beer Review. Feel free to send us any beer suggestions that we can make Chad go buy off at Tavour.